This episode of the Oh No 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 podcast is sponsored by Dynamic Industrial Services, the rope access specialists. Every week we talk about the Rovers' latest attempts to climb the SPFL ladder, but sometimes even a ladder won't reach. DIS are specialists in working at height, offering maintenance, inspection, repair and more, right across Scotland. So if you need a rope access specialist and you want a premiership service, visit dynamicindustrialservices.co.uk to find out more.
Welcome back to the Oh No 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 podcast, where we have gotten together a day late for a sleek and streamlined preview of the Dunfermline game. I'll let you decide who's who. So this will be, I think, shorter than normal, but kind of life got in the way yesterday, and we couldn't quite get the usual kind of six of us together. So we've a special treat tonight. So you've got me, Blair, and John to talk through tomorrow's big derby, which will almost certainly be today's derby by the time you listen to this. So before we get started, gents, how are you? Blair, how are you?
I'm very well, mate. Very well.
Looks like your house has had a bit of an upgrade since the last time we saw you.
I'm in a hotel in Glasgow for the weekend. I'm away on exam board duty, so I couldn't do anything last night, but I'm free tonight to talk all things towny.
It's good of you to take time out of your far-flung trip to speak this. And John, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm looking forward to tomorrow. I'll be doing this. I'll be having an early bath and then going straight to my kit. It'll be like Christmas morning coming along tomorrow.
Exciting stuff.
Aye, absolutely. So, as I say, this will be a kind of a shorter episode than normal, which is shorthand for the fact that none of us have done any kind of preparation or even checked kind of who's injured and who's not or anything. So, let's stick to the soft stuff that doesn't require any research. Confidence-wise, Blair, where are you the night before the game?
From a Rovers point of view, pretty confident. I think off the back of a pretty horrific game last week that we obviously covered in pretty good detail, I think the players will feel they've got a wee kind of point to prove for themselves as much as anything else for the title running. The fact that Dundee United picked up points through the week as well kind of puts a wee bit of added pressure on it. Probably a wee bit more, I don't think fearful is the right word, but a wee bit more kind of taking Dunfermline a wee bit more seriously than we have done the rest of the season. I do think they're gunning for us massively, which always leaves the nerves. But no, I'm still pretty confident. I think on paper we're a better team. I don't think there's anybody. I don't think even there's a Pars fan would disagree with that this season. I think we are the better side. So. Yeah, confident enough. And
John, what about you?
Yeah,
you're always confident.
I share that confidence as well. I think the fact that they're gunning for us is what you said there, Blair, and that's quite right. But I think that might actually give us a wee bit of an edge over them. I think they'll be maybe a wee bit too eager to try and appease their fans, because if we beat them tomorrow, that's a season from hell for them, isn't it?
Yeah.
I remember we played them and we lost 4 games to them one season, and so I think this would be another good win for us tomorrow.
I'm not convinced by any means at all by James McPake's kind of full ability, full stop.
I was going to say by James McPake.
Yeah, you can shorten that sentence to any point you like. But in particular, I don't know. I don't think he's handled these derbies very well.
No.
And I remember saying back at the kind of League Cup game where they were fine. They were arguably marginally better than us on that day. And I thought a lot of that was down to just the kind of default way that both teams set up. I think their wing backs and their wide forwards, they had a lot of got a lot of change out of our backline that day. I thought Keith Watson was obviously one of his first games on this. Had a torrid time off the boy Lewis McCann. But it felt like in every game since, McPake's kind of contrived to make his team worse by doing kind of daft stuff. So I'm pretty confident in this one as well. I think it's a cliche, but it's like a good game to come into on the back of a pretty horrible one last time out. And it's probably worth saying as well that, since that Friday night, they've played twice, and they've played twice on that, by all accounts, pretty horrible park that they've been left with after, smashing pipes up in the dead of night so they didn't have to play Airdrie and then get beat in the rearranged game anyway, which is good.
Glorious.
So it'll be interesting to see what kind of team they can cobble together as well. Obviously, kind of story of their season has been injuries, and probably the one big thing that's changed since the last time we saw them is that they've brought in Chris Kane up front, who looks sort of annoyingly competent.
Yeah. He's a footballer, isn't he?
He also looks a bit like you, Duncan.
Aye, me, him, and Zach Rudden. Just the spares at the Guess Who deck. I don't think he's a world beater by any means at all, but I don't think he needs to be. Like, he's just like what they've lacked all season is just a competent forward, and it makes them a lot easier to play against when you've got Craig Whiten, who, like, I've kind of refrained from slagging him off before games up till this point this season for tempting fate, and
do it now then.
I'll not do it now again, but I think I've made my feelings clear. And Alex Jakubiak looks dangerous up until the point you let him get a shot away.
This is going to come back to bite you.
If it does, it would almost certainly be like a freak event, because I checked, because obviously it was in the paper yesterday, and he was saying that they were due a result. It's like, okay, it's not how it works, but fine. And given it again the whole like, we wouldn't do that kind of social media stuff. It's like, well, I know, but we've not had the chance to find out, have we?
Duncan, maybe it will come back to bite you, and he'll have a shot and he'll smack you in the face because you miss the goals completely.
Well, it's more likely. So he's played
in front of your dad, because I would like to see him getting hit in the cooking.
No, but he is. Well, he's bigger than me. He's taller than me, actually. So that's
right.
I could duck down possibly. But the thing, Alex Jakubiak, so I had a wee check to see, because I thought he looks kind of threatening sometimes. He looks all right, and he's scored 2 league goals all season, and they came in the same game, and they drew 2 each with Ayr United. So that, arguably one of their 2 main forwards, and he's contributed a point with his goals this season. So even if he does, like, if he could have a great game tomorrow and win them the game, he's still had a terrible season.
Yeah.
So actually, that's why I'm annoyed that they've signed Chris Kane, because Chris Kane actually looks like he knows how to play as a forward, and he will get goals while doing it. It's actually, and as much as he looks like me and Zach Rudden, I think he's quite reminiscent of Zach Rudden as well, and what we've seen from him since he's come in.
I was going to say, he strikes me as one of those strikers that I always talk a lot about, those strikers who do really well at League One, and when you step them up to the Championship, Craig Whiten's a perfect example. They just don't, it doesn't, translate. Declan McManus is another one that kind of cut it in the lower league. Kane, I think, is probably one whole league above that. Like, he goes into the Premier League and he's okay, he'll do a job, but I do think drop him into the Championship and he actually becomes quite handy. Rudden's possibly in the same wheelhouse, to be fair, as well. But yeah, I think he's a decent signing for them, to be fair.
Quite ironic as well, because I think just before the window closed last January, we tried to get him, but I don't think there was any money even to bring him in on loan. Yeah,
I think he's. I think you're right. I think he's one of these guys who will kind of continually bounce kind of between those two. And I think, again, to go back to why he's annoying, he's one of these guys who contributes when he's not scoring goals.
Yeah.
Which counts for a lot in a team like Dunfermline where none of their strikers score any goals. Yeah. I think we might also once again see our old pal Kyle Benedictus again as well. So he's been unused on the bench their last 2 games, but it seems like he is kind of back to fitness. Mm-hmm. And I wonder if they were maybe kind of saving him. So they actually, just to go back to Chris Kane for a second, rested him on Tuesday night, by all accounts, and actually just said he's not had a lot of football this season, so they're just saving him for the weekend. So it's actually said he was fatigued, which I don't know if that means that's more serious than just being tired. But I don't know. We'll see. But quite possibly we'll see Benny back as well, which I don't know. It feels like they're kind of gambling on him again.
Very good laughy.
Fix their problems. It would be. But other than that, I don't know a huge amount about the other business that they've done. They've signed a load of guys with double-barreled surnames, which is a novel strategy, if nothing else.
It's hard to make the highlights packages worth watching.
Yeah.
Some of the defending has been interesting, to say the least.
It looked like they'd I mean, this goes for basically everybody in the division at the moment. It looked like with kind of one result against Ayr United for them, they'd kind of turned the corner a little bit.
Yeah,
I think it's just because the league's so compacted. But totally. Getting beat by the sounds of it pretty comfortably for Airdrie. And I know we get beat by Airdrie as well all the time, but I don't see. Whereas we maybe took a bit of a hit confidence-wise on Friday night, I don't see where they would have any real kind of grounds for confidence.
And actually, I mean, I spoke about it before, but we had that weird loop where, like, Airdrie owned us, we owned Dunfermline, and Dunfermline seemed to own Airdrie. So that seems to have turned as well, like, which is not a positive from the Dunfermline point of view. Like, Airdrie was obviously a team that came up with them last season, a team that they had a lot of victories over last season, and seemed to have their number again this season. But that seems to have shifted a chunk as well, which is it's always positive, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Kind of turning attention to the Rovers then. It's infinitely better to talk about. There's probably some decisions to be made, as there always are, obviously, kind of selection-wise, but particularly coming off the back of that Arbroath game, for obvious reasons in terms of you get Keith Watson potentially picking up that injury there. But also, I think some people maybe didn't make the greatest case for themselves in the second half for keeping jerseys. John, is there anyone in particular you would want to see come in or potentially that you wouldn't mind seeing drop out?
No, I think the Keith Watson situation is going to be a big ask for whoever plays alongside Muzzer. So I don't know what will happen there. Whether Scott Brown will play there or whether they might play an obvious person that's a centre back in that role, possibly. I'm not sure. I think it's it'll be an Eden Murray situation that we've seen so often this season, where up until an hour before the game, we'll all be having our own kind of selection thoughts, and then he'll pull a few rabbits out of hats, and it'll be one of these jobs again, I'm sure. But I'm sure that he'll have a plan on how we're going to beat them once again.
Yeah, and Blair, kind of taking that, let's just take it as read for the purposes of the conversation, right? Keith Watson won't be available tomorrow.
I think
that
that's
seems
fair.
to be the kind of prevailing wind on that. How would you be attacking that problem in your central defence?
So out of sheer belligerence, I would play Dylan Corr. I think I think Murray needs a centre half alongside him. I think we need a solid back four. I actually think more than anything else, we need a really strong centre midfield. I think the strength for Dunfermline this season, the one strength they've had that they haven't been able to capitalise on because of changes during the game and stuff, has been the width. And I expect them to have the better of the width tomorrow than what the Rovers do. So I think the imperative is on us to keep the ball centrally as much as possible. So I think I'd like to see Brown in there in the midfield, kind of marshalling it with Stanton alongside him, and possibly even Byrne as well. I actually think it will be, he might go to that kind of diamond formation that he's done a few times, where he just kind of, a lot of the same personnel, but just kind of pulls them a wee bit more centrally rather than spreading them wide. I can see that happening tomorrow, and I think for that to work, he needs Brown in there, which means I think he needs Dylan Corr at centre half. So that would be the big thing I'd be pushing for tomorrow. Mainly, like I say, funnily, I'm not even so much about getting Dylan Corr in, because I'm not convinced he'll do it, but more about getting Brown into the midfield. I don't think we can be gambling with him at centre half again, because they're likely to have, I mean, if going by what you're saying, if Benny starts, you imagine that means Chris Hamilton and O2 in the middle together, which is a pretty decent pairing, actually, to be fair. That's two of their, actually, to be fair, there's probably the only two players that have come out with real pass marks for them against us this season. So, yeah, I would expect a bit of a battle in the middle. So, yeah, Bruni in there for me would be where I would go.
I've gone along very similar lines. So I'm the same. Excuse me. In terms of just being belligerent, I'm the same. So I've also gone with Dylan Corr. I think I've just seen too many structural issues with the defence having a midfielder in it, and it's really not a criticism of Scott Brown. I think he's actually done better than anybody could possibly expect playing in the defence. But you just see, and we talked about it a lot after the Arbroath game, too many of these kind of issues that occur through just not having natural defenders in there. Yeah. So I would have Dylan Corr in alongside you and Murray. I've laid it out as a kind of 4-2-3-1 with Scott Brown and Sam Stanton as the two. Although I am intrigued by your also play Sean Byrne theory or proposal. I think the only thing with that would be you're almost entirely surrendering the wide areas with that one.
I'm all right with it.
And then just kind of defending your 18-yard box, I suppose, which, to be fair, we did in the first derby at East End Park really, really well with Scott McGill at left back that day.
That's right.
So we have done it. So
I would include Mullen as well, though. I think that's the key to that working. So for me, Byrne at the base of the sort of diamond, Brown and Mullen as the sort of middle two, and then Stanton ahead of that. And for me, what it does is it means when you are defending, Stanton can kind of drop in, and you do end up with your 4-1-3 or 4-2-3 if Vonnie, who I would have at 10, coming back in again. Mullen naturally gives you that little bit of width, but he's also not an out-and-out winger for me. Like he had a pretty decent game up at Arbroath against their fullback, but he crosses well from deep, and he puts good balls into the box without having to get into that kind of particularly wide areas, like getting into the corners. And Bruni just gives you everything. Like, he gives you all that running. And Stanton, again, just naturally that to-ing and fro-ing. I just think it's probably the one way we'll get a bit of joy out of them.
That was their Arbroath's SPFL Team of the Week fullback, by the way.
I know.
Josh Mullen was just tearing apart in that first half. But obviously things happened after that.
Yeah, totally.
But
I think
of all the players to pick.
I think as well the Mullins shown himself to be good. But if they're going to be having fullbacks and playing guys wide, his work against wingers or the opposition in that, and he's doubling back and protecting our fullback has been very good this season. So that's one of the things that I would be looking for. So I would have him playing that role on the wide right.
I would definitely have a starting place for Josh Mullen. I mean, I started the season as a big Josh Mullen fan, and then he scored that volley against Lithgow Rose in pre-season. It's like, you're for me. And kind of since then, I've only increased my admiration for Josh Mullen. I'm a huge Josh Mullen fan. So for everything you've said there, I think it's the kind of the crosses and the set pieces take the headlines, but it's actually work rate as much as anything else. He's not what you would sort of expect from a winger.
No,
the amount of work that he puts in. So definitely have him. And then probably the only other question is the question we've got kind of every game at the moment, which is you've only really got space for one of your big strikers, typically. Although to be fair, last time I think I asked you this, John, you said just play them both. But going into this one, are you Zach Rudden or Jack Hamilton or both?
No, I would think as well. Rudden hasn't played against them this season, so I would just unleash the beast on them because, when Zach Rudden came in, I was a wee bit dubious, but I'll tell you, I like his mischief about him, and he's got a bit of devilment about him. That's what I was saying to Robbie up at Arbroath last week, and I really I've taken to that. I like him. He's a guy that will noise up defenders and things, and in a derby match, that's what you want as well from your striker. Now, I've got the utmost respect and great admiration for Jack Hamilton, and I think in time he'll be our main striker. But I would unleash Rudden for his 60 minutes and then bring Hamilton on for the last 30. And it has worked for us. I know it didn't work last week. Well, it worked up to a point, but that's what I would do. And I would say there's got to be a space in the team for Vaughan as well.
Yeah,
because he's another one that's has a good record against them.
Literally the best record.
Yes.
Yeah. So that very much kind of undroppable for this fixture as far as I'm concerned. What about you, Blair, in terms of the sort of your forward, most of your forwards for this one?
I think I kind of agree with John, and it's such a lovely position to be in. I don't actually care. Like, I would genuinely either or. They both come to the table with different things. They both offer you different things. And I can make arguments for starting with one and then bringing the other one on at some point during the game. And if you're up against it and you need it, bringing them on together effectively as the game goes on, because they don't cancel each other out at all. I think they'll actually complement each other quite well. I think had Vaughan not been in such good form, they probably would have played together by now. But as you've just said, Vaughan is pretty much undroppable at the moment just because of the form that he's on and the kind of effort he's putting in. But I mean, again, we're going to go into this game. That bench is going to be frightening. Absolutely frightening. So you're looking at a situation where, again, if Dunfermline pick up an injury or two during the game, which is completely plausible, same for us, to be fair, but they'll be more worried about it than what we will. And you get to 60, 70 minutes and you have to start making substitutions. If the game's really, really tight, I fancy us to kick on rather than them. But again, it's a derby, and it's that thing of the whole game will run on adrenaline. And they definitely, I mean, there's no doubt that the social media thing has got to them. Massively got to them. It's hilarious.
I don't know what part of both their manager and their striker pinning their interviews around it in full pre-match gave you that idea, Blair.
Do you think, I mean, is it just the media? Is it just the press picking up on one sentence, do you think? Or are they actually that rattled?
I think it's asking. But first of all, I think it's definitely, I'm going to assume it's Ian Collin, and I apologise, Ian, if it's not you or to whoever it was. I suppose. I apologise to you both. But I'm going to guess it was Ian Collin. I didn't look at the byline. I would suspect he's asked the question.
Yeah.
To say, James, you appear to be raging. Have you been on Twitter again? But the thing is, and I cannot stress this enough, if you're the manager of the football club, the answer to that question is, I don't look at Twitter, Ian.
No interest.
I'm the manager of the football club. Like, I didn't notice. That stuff is... and I class myself in this group of people for bairns. Like, that effectively, it's for punters to have a laugh and to chuck stuff back and forth at each other. There is no sense in which that should be reaching the manager or the players.
Much like this is exactly the same thing. Like, this is not actually, like, nobody's watching this and going, right, I'm going to watch this so that I get an idea of how the Rovers might set up on Saturday. Because I get it right every week. Like, it's just nonsense.
Incredible if they did, just for exactly for how misleading it would be.
It would be
but
hilarious.
It's just, like,
I was saying
so
before as well,
to me.
If honestly, if they're sitting there and they need the motivation to get up for this game, we've scalped them 4 times. Like, that has to be the motivation.
In a relegation battle.
Yeah, that has to be the motivation. They're actually, I mean, are they not currently sitting in 5th, or did they drop down after the Airdrie game? But, like, it just shows you how quickly this league shifts. They went from being a team that were effectively almost certainly going to be in a relegation scrap to being on the verge of the playoffs in 3 games.
Yeah, so they're in
because of the way the league swings.
But they're basically 5 points off the promotion playoffs, and 2 points off the relegation playoffs. So it really is
the thing. It's so tight.
Blob.
As you
they don't need motivation, surely.
Why would you express energy into to going on about media stuff? You know, it's just
like this recurring line of like, oh, I don't think we would do that. It's just like Alex Jakubiak gets up in the morning and he's phoning the Pars social media guy. Like, are you doing patter on there? No, I just tweet the full time score, Alex. Honest, like,
it's just mad. It's that thing as well. But the whole point of doing it, right? This is a bit I keep getting back to. The whole point of doing it is to noise folk up. So surely the one thing, it's like, I don't know, like if you're a professional footballer and somebody tackles you hard, do you know what I mean? You've always got that hard man guy who's like, I'm not going to show that I'm hurt. Like, I'm really sore, but I'm not going to show that I'm hurt because I didn't want to let them win. And it's like, so we're doing this to piss them off. And they come out and tell us how pissed off they are. It's like, well, thanks. It's clearly working.
Aye, but it's just like complete collateral damage, because that's like that's not the target. There's no.
Oh, but it's glorious though.
Whenever, like, obviously Rory's been the kind of driving force behind the transformation and a lot of the social media stuff. There's not a chance that at the start of the season he was like, good chance that this will like start affecting games and stuff.
Yeah,
I'm certain what he was like is, this will be funny. We might be able to bam up some other supporters, and fundamentally it'll drive clicks and page views and stuff that we can then actually sell advertising with, which is the main kind of purpose of it. But I mean, fundamentally, it's to bam up 17-year-olds for Rosyth. It's not supposed to be getting a reaction for the manager.
There's no way in the last 3 months it's not been a little bit to try and piss off McPake because he keeps biting for it. So now it's just like, you've got a wee thread and you just keep like pulling at it.
If the fish are jumping into the boat, you didn't have to put them back. Like, that's...
Have we been given permission to celebrate if we win tomorrow?
No, we've not.
No.
James McPake explicitly says in his interview today, you should only be celebrating when you win cups. If you win a trophy or you win a league, then you can celebrate. Which, I mean, I do not want to see this at all, but I look But I mean, it will be interesting to see if he lives by that. Should they win tomorrow?
Even if they just go 1-0 up before we beat them 4-1, I'll be all right with that. Like, just to see if he celebrates.
Aye, it's so funny to me. Just the madness of it. Like, it's such a. Because the other thing as well is it's taking yourself so seriously. Like the Alex Jakubiak one, it's a cartoon of him in a go-kart that's exploding, and he's like, "I am unhappy about this." Like, come on, it's
the fact that you can now take that poster and that is the facial expression that goes with that byline, like that raging face that he's got in that go-kart, just matches the text.
That Matty Todd with his swimming goggles on at the beginning of the season started it all by walking up to us and doing his fingers in his ears.
That's fine.
I'm all right with that.
That's totally fine.
Penalties. I was getting so much stick on Facebook and that. I had to say to them, what time does your open top bus start route round Dunfermline, because you beat the Rovers on penalties?
And then did not qualify from that group.
Yeah, but we did.
Oh, man. Very, very funny.
It's been a great season so far.
I hope they didn't budget for a long run in the League Cup or a long run in the Scottish Cup. I hope budget didn't contribute to their losses recently.
I was going to say, this is the club that lamented the fact they won the league because they didn't get the playoffs and the extra money that would have brought in. Fucking idiots.
I'm not. Actually, no, kids. I'm going to stop that there. We can pick this up if we beat them tomorrow, right?
Yeah, that's true.
I promise. If we beat them tomorrow, Sunday, we will spend a good bit of time on just how much money they spent on winning League One. But for now, let's try and keep our powder just a wee bit dry, to borrow a phrase. So just a couple of other things to kind of say on this. First of all, really impressive kind of ticket sales once again.
Yeah.
From the home support. That's not a dig at the away support. I genuinely have no idea how many tickets they've sold in the away end. But South Stand's sold out. Main Stand's down to its last 300 tickets, I think, last time I saw. It's really, genuinely, just really, really impressive. Like, I think I said this last time. We had was it maybe in midweek against Morton, we sold a decent number of tickets. I genuinely would not have believed that. Like,
no.
I would have said that kind of for one-off games, we could have gotten a decent support in, like the Dundee United game. But actually, you're really talking about repeatedly selling out and selling huge number of home tickets. It's really, it's credit to every single person who's bought a ticket, but it is also absolutely credit to people at the Football Club who've made a lot of the changes for this year. And I mean, there's a note in the Rovers accounts that were released this week, which basically says, there's like a standing note in it that is effectively has been there for about 40 years that says the operations of this business are sustained by directors' loans, and there is an agreement that they will not be recalled. It's kind of standard stuff that's in just every football club. But this year's, there's a little kind of bit on the end which basically says, however, based on changes that have occurred since this accounting period ended, there is a belief that the business will be self-sustaining kind of going forward. And you can kind of believe that when you look at a lot of the stuff that's happened, which is again, like, huge credit, because I would not have believed that either. I really would have said, if you'd asked me 18 months ago, like, how do you make this football club kind of self-sustaining? I would have said the only way to do it would be to cut your costs. And basically cut your costs back to a certain point that you've still got enough kind of folk who'll turn up and watch anything anything in a Rovers jersey. So again, yeah, exactly. Talk about it on a Friday night. But I'd say huge credit. Hopefully, the proof will be in the pudding on that. That's still to come. That's being projected forward. Totally. But again, yeah, very good to see. Hopefully, that home end kind of will sell it by kickoff. I would kind of suspect, hopefully, that it will do. People will pick up tickets on a Saturday morning. And then the only other thing I've got down here is it is International Women's Day. I think technically, I think it's International Women's Day today, but it is International Women's Day at Starks Park tomorrow. So Christina of this podcast, I believe, is rocking the mic on kind of tannoy duties for the first time, so that should be good. And Carol is at Starks Park for the first time in 4 years, I think.
Yeah.
So
Carol's been at Starks Park tonight because they've been making up goodie bags. There's 350 goodie bags going to the first 350 ladies, girls coming in our end, and there's 150 bags going to be given to the 150 females that come in the Dunfermline end as well.
Have they got enough?
Great gesture from a lot of the money's been. I missed that one there.
No, I was going to say, have they got enough tissues for the 150 in the away end?
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, I couldn't resist.
That was worth interrupting for, aye.
It's been supported by people like Rovers down south that have put money in for these to be given. There's a good interview with Fiona Hanna tomorrow and Callum Hanna. So in the programme as well. So there's a few features. And we have two young girls who play for twin sisters that play for Hearts. The husband sisters that started at Wraith Rovers Community Foundation playing their football. They've now played for Hearts, and they also play for Scotland under 17. So they're girls that there's big futures ahead for them, but they're both staunch Rovers supporters. So it'll be nice for them to get a good reception tomorrow from their hometown team.
There was a feature on the website today as well with from the kind of community foundation and the girls team development squad, which is well worth watching as well. Really good piece on that, so definitely worth your time.
And if you just really quickly, I'm really looking forward to Christina reading out the team in alphabetical order as well, in the way that only Christina can.
Yep.
You just get Kevin Dabrowski named last as well, just inexplicably. Like, just good. I like that. That's gives him his due
Brilliant
attention that he deserves. And if you do see Carol, give her a wave and possibly a lend of your jacket as well, because by all accounts she's
been freezing.
Not adapting or readapting to the Fife climate particularly well from Barcelona. Right, that's all I've got in my hastily scribbled notes here. Anything else from you two, gents, you want to add in?
Score predictions?
Aye, go on then.
Are we brave?
You can start.
2-0 Rovers.
John?
I don't do predictions, but 3-1. 3-1.
That's prophecies that you do, isn't it?
I do.
Right, okay. I don't know why, I have been gripped by kind of rampant optimism. I really think we're going to give them a doing tomorrow. I don't know why. But no, in absence of any of our usual optimists, I'm going to say 4-0 Wraith Rovers.
Oh, that's getting clipped.
We've kept this episode short enough. You could just cut the whole thing. Because we've not been particularly generous or charitable towards our neighbours. But
no, we haven't.
Yeah.
As is our
not really our purpose, is it? Right, smashing. I tell you what, we will call it there. So thank you everybody for listening. Apologies, this episode's a little bit late. Hopefully you still get time to listen to it before kickoff, because if we get beat, everybody's just going to delete that. Mark has
this
played.
Never happened.
And we will be back on Sunday with presumably a slightly larger squad amongst ourselves, and we'll do a thorough debrief that will either be like an hour and 20 minutes of gleeful gloating about football and accounts, or it will be kind of sorrow.
And a pre-match for Tuesday.
Oh, we got a pre-match for Tuesday as well. We're at Firhill on Tuesday night, so we'll need to cover that as well. Christ, that could be a long one.
It could be a long one now.
Oh, this has been a short one, so it's fine. We're robbing Peter to pay Paul in advance. So, as I say, thank you, everybody, and we will see you tomorrow, and then we'll see you on Sunday.
Come on!